I go back to the question of what's in the pipelines, what's in the rail cars. I think it's really important, just as we object to the export of raw logs, we should object to the export of raw bitumen. If the risk of spill, and I've studied pipelines a lot in the last couple of years, the risk of a spill goes down the more value added the product has. So, for instance, the highest refined quality of gasoline, they only put in high quality pipes because any rust or grit or anything wrecks the product. Whereas bitumen is such low grade, yeah, any old stuff can mix into it because it's got to get to an upgrader, and then after the upgrader it's got to be further refined. So pipeline quality and rail car quality is much better when it's more refined. And also the environmental damage of a spill is much less when the product is refined. It's still damaging, but the more refined gasoline is, the more it volatilizes into the atmosphere rather quickly, doesn't disperse and sink. So you'll remember how horrible it was when that fuel truck crashed into Goldstream. And initially everybody said, well, this won't come back for years. But, you know, there's still some ongoing damage. I don't want to minimize it. But it came back within the next season that it was usable for salmon. Had that been crude or bitumen and diluent, it would be gone for many, many more years. So I think we have to focus on what's in the pipelines, and if it's going by train, if it's going by pipeline, however it's traveling, it needs to be value added in Alberta. That creates a lot more jobs, and it also creates a safer product, and it reduces the pressure for this hell-bent for leather approach of the oil sands at the moment, which is constantly building new mines. If you're getting value added out of the product and you create more jobs, it creates more economic stability, creates less inflation. That said, if we're putting anything in rail cars, it has to be much safer than it is now. If we're putting anything in pipelines, it has to be much safer than it is now. And ideally, we'd be choosing routes that did not put the product in close proximity to our most fragile ecosystems. The more I look at this, the more I think that the big oil interests from the United States, like the Koch brothers, who, I mean, it turns out that there was a bitumen refining process going on in, was it in Detroit? Yeah, it was in Detroit. They had a mountain of pet coke building up. The Koch brothers bought it. You know, they have a vast empire. It's not just the Koch brothers, it's also Exxon. These large external multinationals are the reason that when I say we should have upgrading in Alberta, the response I always get from the oil industry is, well, that's not economic. If that was economic, it would be getting done now. The reason it's not economic is it's not economic to the industry. It's economic to Canada.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, so there's a big difference, and I think if we can, I would like to say that dilbit shouldn't exist. The only reason dilbit exists as a substance is that they want to move the bitumen out without processing it. Because shipping the diluent up to Alberta, we don't talk about this at all, shipping the diluent up to Alberta is another environmental risk because it's toxic and it's a hazardous substance. You remember when the rail bridge over the Bow River during the Calgary flood, those 5 railway cars that were hazardous material that were hanging over the river? They were full of diluent going from the US up to Alberta, up to northern Alberta to mix with the bitumen. So it's a hazardous substance that we're shipping into